The biggest question I've been asked lately is, what are those trolling motors in the back of your boat? What are they used for? Do you like them? Do you use them a lot? So I thought I'd take a few minutes today to discuss what these brakes are, how they're used, some benefits and some downsides of having them on your boat, and some use case scenarios that you may not have thought about. I know I didn't think about before I put these on my boat that I have found to be really helpful. So I've had these on my boat for a few months now, and of course, essentially what these are, they're called brakes. They're two trolling motors mounted on the power poles or the rafters, and they're used to stop your boat or to pull your boat backwards whenever you don't want to use their trolling motor up front for that. So basically, you put the power poles down, these motors go in the water, and then there is a button up front in the boat to turn these motors on and stop your boat. So they're pretty simple to use. And of course, they were initially designed to be used with scoping. So like trolling around in open water, you find a fish, you're trolling around fast, try to find as many fish as you can. You find a fish on livescope, you cast at it, and you hit these to prevent your boat from running that fish over. However, there's a lot of other scenarios where these can be really helpful. For instance, this spring, fishing around, everything's flooded, so fishing around all this flooded cover, you'll come up to an area and there'll be one little cast to get, up in this hole underneath this tree or whatever else. And you can, move quickly up to that, hit your brakes, stop the boat, make that precise cast up in that spot to get your bait where you need it, and then, catch the fish or not catch the fish and move on to the next one or keep moving down the bank. These can also be really helpful if you're fishing down a windy bank. There are times where these are lifesavers. If the wind's blowing behind you, and sometimes that's just how you have to fish. If the wind's blowing right into a bank, you can't fish into the wind. These can be really helpful for controlling the boat. When you try to stop the boat or push the boat backwards from the front, it's just the boat wants to swing sideways, whereas these are really good at keeping the boat stable, keeping it positioned the way you want it, so you can fish that bank effectively. Another place where these are really handy is when you get snagged on the bank. You troll up to the bank and you pull the trolling motor up. There's no water up there, you can't put your trolling motor back down, you get your bait unsnagged, you can put these down, hit that button, and then pull yourself back out with these brakes. It just makes the whole process a lot easier, a lot simpler, a lot less noisy, you don't scare fish, and you can get back to fishing faster. So, of course, like anything, these have their upsides as well as their downsides to being on your boat. So the biggest upside, of course, with these, we already discussed this a little bit, is if there's something, a piece of cover or a fish right in front of your boat, if you hit these to stop your boat, they won't blow that fish out. Whereas if your trolling motor is 5-10 feet away from that fish, you're going to blow that water on it. That fish most likely isn't going to bite. Whereas these, they're going to be 25-30 feet away. You won't necessarily blow that fish out if you're careful with these. Another advantage of these is because it's two separate motors versus one bigger motor, these are super quiet. You can hardly hear these things when they're on, which is awesome. That's probably my favorite part about these. I didn't think about how quiet they were going to be compared to that front motor. That really helps to not disturb the fish as well, and is one of my favorite things about these brakes. These things are also very strong. These aluminum brackets are great. I haven't had any issues running through rough water, hitting them on stuff once they get deployed, which I'll talk about here in a little bit as a downside. But I haven't had any issues with these holding up. They've been great as far as that goes, and we'll see how these hold up over time. Now to the downsides. So one thing I didn't anticipate was that with these in the water and you're trolling down the bank, it just creates more drag. You won't be able to troll as fast. When you let off the trolling motor, you won't drift as far, which may or may not be a good thing, depending on what you're doing. But it's definitely something I've noticed, and of course to combat that, you can lift them up, but then if you go to hit the button, they won't do anything. You have to put them down, which takes more time. You'll drift further forwards if you do need to stop, if you have to deploy your anchors with your brakes on them before you can hit the button to stop you. Another disadvantage of these, as you can imagine, once this is deployed, if you're around a bunch of cover, or say you're trolling around with these deployed, these motors stick out quite a bit. And they can get stuck on stumps, logs, and then once you pick this up, they can get those logs trapped on top of these motors, and it tries to pull it up, and it gets wedged in here, and then you have to put them back down, go back and remove that stick, whatever else. It's not a super big deal, but that has happened to me a few times while I've been fishing with them. But while that's happened, these have held up great. I haven't had any issues out of them, other than just the minor inconvenience of getting that stick out of them and moving on with my fishing day. So overall, I have been very happy with these. Like I said, I've been running them for a few months now. There have been a lot of scenarios where they've really came in handy I didn't expect. For me, I'm very happy I purchased them. As far as, price goes, they're cheap compared to a lot of the accessories we buy, like, compared to these Raptors or a depth finder or an Ultrex, whatever else. These things are relatively inexpensive, coming in a little over $1,000 if I remember right. I'll post the number to make sure I don't remember off the top of my head. They're somewhat affordable as far as a lot of the technology we're putting on these boats nowadays. So one thing I want to do here is just demonstrate quickly how fast you can stop. These are the 30 foot-pound model, so each one of these is a 30 foot-pound trolling motor. So I'll show you here how fast you can stop your boat with these brakes going full speed. So here we are going about 3 miles an hour, full speed, as fast as I can go. Let's go ahead and stop, hit the brakes, and see how fast this boat stops. So obviously that's, decently quick. If I were to stop with this trolling motor up front, it would be pushing all kinds of water up, making a big mess. For that scenario, these brakes can be really helpful. These brakes have been great for me so far. I've really liked them. They've definitely helped me catch more fish. Let me know what you think in the comments, if you think this is something that would be beneficial. And, I can understand how someone might think, oh, I don't need that. And honestly, that's kind of what I thought. But once I got them, I've been happy with my purchase. And, I definitely think they helped me be more efficient on the water. Hope you all found this video to be helpful. If you did, be sure to hit the subscribe button right over here, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you all.